U.S. Department of State has no higher priority than the safety and security of Americans. As we continue to assess and address the needs of U.S. citizens during this important time, I want to reiterate a few important instructions for everyone watching at home and around the world. We urge all American travelers to sign up for the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program, known as STEP, to receive the latest updates from the State Department. We also urge U.S. citizens to regularly monitor the department's website at travel.state.gov to receive the latest updates and to find emergency contact information. Americans overseas in need of assistance should contact their nearest U.S. embassy or consulate, or call, if you're overseas, +1 202 501 4444. That is +1 202 501 4444. Another important update: the State Department has added a crisis intake form, which can be found by clicking the banner on the top of travel.state.gov, which, once again, the magic of technology, there it is. The new aspect is that red banner at the top. Click on Israel and Iran departure info for U.S. citizens and follow the instructions for more information. U.S. citizens in Israel and the West Bank who would like to receive information on departure assistance should fill out the form that this website will take you to. This crisis intake form will also allow U.S. citizens in Iran to register their information. We do not anticipate offering direct U.S. government-assisted departure from Iran. Americans seeking departure should take advantage of existing means to leave. The Department of State has provided information and support to over 25,000 people seeking guidance regarding the situation in Israel, the West Bank, and Iran. And on Iran, I want to reiterate the statement from President Trump delivered by my colleague Caroline yesterday. Quote, "Based on the fact that there is a substantial chance of negotiations that may or may not take place in the near future, I will make my decision of whether or not to go within the next 2 weeks." And now, with so much happening, there has been some news this week you may not have seen. After 3 days of talks, technical teams from the Democratic Republic of the Congo and the Republic of Rwanda initialed the text of a peace agreement on Wednesday. Next Friday, June 27th, Secretary of State Marco Rubio will witness the ministerial signing of that peace agreement right here at the Department of State, led by the foreign ministers of Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. This is a milestone achievement and a significant step toward peace in that region, and we remind our friends and partners that with implementation of the agreement, the economic investment and development we all want to see will finally be possible. We look forward to more on this next Friday. Also, I would like to join the many Americans in New Jersey welcoming home Idan Alexander. Held hostage by Hamas, his release is a reminder of our commitment to Americans wherever they may be in the world. The scenes of people lining the streets were truly heartwarming, and America is stronger with one of our sons finally home. And lastly, we are having this briefing on Friday because we were not here yesterday because it was the holiday Juneteenth. On June 19th, for everyone wondering and not perhaps having all the details, on June 19th, 1865, Union Major General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas to announce General Order Number 3, declaring that all enslaved people in Texas were free. More than 2 years after President Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation had officially ended slavery in Confederate States, I should say. This day, now known as Juneteenth, has become a profound commemoration of freedom and resilience. So I hope you enjoyed yesterday, and we are here today, and I'm ready for your questions, shall we? Yes, Daphne.
Thank you so much. So on the 25,000 that you said the State Department has provided information to, is that U.S. citizens who are seeking information on leaving Israel, the West Bank, and Iran?
It's information in general. So it would be a combination, I'm sure, but it's a general information, conditions, perhaps departures as well, but general information.
Okay, and do you have any numbers on the number of U.S. citizens that are seeking information on departing Israel or Iran?
Those are not numbers that I will share at this time. Just as a reminder as well, while today is a bit different than the feeling of Tuesday, we are still in a dynamic where there are still hostilities, where there are still people in bunkers, where there is still a danger. Clearly, we've heard the statement from President Trump about his posture at this point. So we're still going to be careful for national security reasons, obviously, when it comes to what we can answer. So that's a number that I won't be able to give you today.
Okay.
All right. All right. And we will not. We'll do one more, but then we will continue on here. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Just on Ambassador Huckabee's tweet, he said that the U.S. is working to get military, commercial, charter flights and cruise ships for evacuation. Have any of those organized by the State Department evacuated American citizens yet? And if not, when is that expected?
Again, I won't give details from this podium, but we know that at each embassy, they are posting actions that they're taking. We know that the Israeli embassy is doing that. So you could go to either travel.state.gov and get to the Israeli embassy, or go there directly and you will see their statements. And I would urge you to do that directly when it comes to what the Israeli embassy is doing and what they've accomplished. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis chartered flights apparently for Americans in Israel seeking to leave and successfully got, I believe it's 1,500 out. I was wondering if those charter flights were coordinated with the State Department in any way, or was this done on some tangent?
Well, I think that there's, and we know that there, of course, are some independent efforts to get American citizens out of those areas, and when we suggest that people take advantage of existing means, we would include, of course, the nature of other opportunities to leave, independent efforts, independent groups managing those dynamics. As far as the DeSantis effort, I would suggest you call the state of Florida, call his office, and I'm sure that they'll get you more information. All right, Nadia.
Thank you, Tammy. Since the president said there is substantial opportunity for negotiation and has given it 2 weeks, why not send in a U.S. representative to join the Europeans with the Iranians in Geneva today? And second, Mr. Grossi is worried that if Bushehr reacts...
Let me answer your first one first, if I may, and then we'll follow up with your second. First of all, Geneva is a discussion involving the Europeans. Of course, we're working on many different fronts and have from the beginning here in leading the nature of finding a solution to this problem. And we certainly continue to. The president's made it very clear, as he has, again, not just about this issue, but every other war and conflict that he's trying to stop. And also with his statement that he would allow to make a decision within the 2 weeks because of the potential. So those efforts continue on. How we're pursuing those efforts are up to the president, and he's making those decisions and anticipates that it might be worth waiting those 2 weeks. But other than, I can't characterize the why or the how. But I think it's important. One thing I think of the many that Americans have learned about President Trump is to believe what he says, to know that he'll deliver, and to not second guess the nature of the choices he's making.
Great. And second, Mr. Grossi is worried about reaction coming from Bushehr if it was attacked. So are you worried that as a result of these attacks on any of the reactors that actually we might have a nuclear radiation?
Well, certainly. I'm not going to speculate on the impact of the nature of what is transpiring in any country in this regard. I know that Israel has issued statements afterwards in dealing with any concerns regarding the actions that they're taking, and I would refer you to the Israeli government in that regard. But I'm not going to speculate on a hypothetical dynamic at this point. All right, yes?
With regard to the talks taking place today, well, concluded today in Geneva, does the Trump administration believe that they were productive in paving the way for diplomacy?
Well, I don't want to characterize what the Secretary of State may think of what has happened. I know that the government as a whole, that we're hopeful for every new opportunity, every new effort to have this come to a conclusion that is diplomatic. That is something clearly we've seen in the president's posture. So while I won't be able to characterize it about what their opinions are at this point, I think at some point we may find that out. But I do know that we do hope that every effort is successful.
Two more quick questions. Is the secretary planning to get on the phone with any of those foreign counterparts that were in the meeting later today?
Well, I know that, of course, he's headed to The Hague next week. And so I know conversations, no doubt, will happen there about a whole number of issues. All right.
And then,
yes, sir.
Iran-
We'll move on here. We'll move on here. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
To the Secretary's Hague trip. When he was in Brussels in early April, he told us that it would take a few days or weeks, not months, certainly, for him to assess whether or not Putin was serious about ending the war. Today, we have all seen Putin's statements. So he himself made it clear that he has no intention to end the war and the killing. He even discussed, more territories to seize. I'm wondering, have you guys landed anywhere in terms of your conclusion about Putin's intention?
Well, we know that since that point, I don't think he said days at that point, but he said a matter of weeks. And in that process, we saw our posture adjust in that framework. At the same time, as I've mentioned before, during negotiations, things sometimes progress. Things change. That's the whole point of negotiations and conversations, is that you signal that how long it is generally that you're willing to wait, but that you would know if someone is serious. And then again, it's not a static environment as you're moving forward through that time. At the same time, we've heard since then some very blunt comments by President Trump about President Putin. We also know that the parties themselves have met directly. And I think that that's also where we've landed at this point in comments from both the President and Secretary of State, that the only way this is going to end is for the two parties to meet and come to a conclusion and a decision and some kind of an agreement. That is where it is. And of course, we are always present. We remain concerned and issued comments a couple of days ago about the nature of what's happening in Ukraine and the death of an American. So we are there. We have been, of course, Ukraine's biggest supporter, and we continue to hope for and work with and observe the nature of how the conversations are going at this point between the two parties. And that, like every other negotiation, can change one way or another. But that's our posture at this point. Of course, America is still involved, and we're clearly making our presence, our caring about the situation known, and that's where we're at this point.
Point taken, Tammy. But in light of today's comments, as I mentioned, Putin's comments, and also his press secretary said that now we have a strategic advantage, quote, why should we lose it? We're going to move forward. So in light of those comments, why not calling them out for not being serious about the peace process?
Well, again, we're not in just a world where when we see something online that we are going to choose how we're going to respond as an individual. There are many different fronts always in every situation that we remain involved in. So it's not as simple as a single response to a single quote that came from a statement or something online. This is about dealing with certain situations in a complex manner. Only the president can make the decision about how to proceed. Only he knows all the elements about what's important and how we're going to make a difference. And that's where we have it. Is, as I term it, as I did a couple days ago, there is one guiding hand to the choices that we make, and that would include with Russia, Ukraine, and every conflict he's trying to stop.
May I
All
ask
right.
one
Yes. No.
related-
We are going to move on here. Thank you, sir.
All right, to go back to Iran just for
Of
two
course,
questions.
of course.
One, just for clarification, have any Americans been killed or injured in Iranian strikes so far?
You know, I don't think so. Is that? Do we have numbers, or is that something that we've been able to? Let's take that back and see where things stand at this point. I do know that the reports that I've seen are that there have been no American injuries or injuries of staff at embassies and consulates. But let's take that back. And again, I would caution, obviously, this is a shocking continuation of a war that affects many countries. And we'll get back to you with with the latest that we have.
I suppose the flip side, thank you, we would appreciate an update. The flip
Of course.
side would be if
And again, just a reminder for people watching, when we say we're going to take it back, it means we get the answer and get it directly to the reporter and then have it and obviously in this case, as a fluid situation, we'll continue to watch it.
Thank you. And insofar as you're looking into it, if there are American citizens in Iran, which we haven't gotten an estimate of how many Americans might be in Iran,
Sure.
if there are injuries or deaths there, we would also be interested.
Well, yes, again, the messaging is for also Americans who are in Iran, and again, urging them to go to travel.state.gov, and we're certainly aware of them. Our task force is working on all of this for every American who is in that region, which provides a different dynamic for some, whether it is, of course, Israel, Iraq or Iran, et cetera. Wherever they may be in the Middle East, we're there for them.
Thank you. The other question is on diplomacy. So we understand the Special Envoy Steve Witkoff is in some sort of contact with the Iranians. How would you encourage us to think about that contact? Is that a prelude to negotiations? What's the nature of that of his engagement with the Iranians?
Well, I wouldn't characterize it at all, except there are things that we know, which is that there had been negotiations, that we had gotten Iran to the table. We'd been having those conversations, led by Special Envoy Steve Witkoff. And we know that the president, from his statement, which is, I think, worth noting again, because it's very specific in its nature, and also, I must say, when I saw it, very Trump-like in his statement, as a man who is serious about everything he addresses, but in this particular kind of way, when it's existential, life and death, that he genuinely, it's not posturing. He wants to have it be solved diplomatically. He knows it can be. He knows based on what he's accomplished already in the past, and the nature of human beings, which in business you learn a lot about as well, but certainly in his governmental experience and as a leader. Again, he said, directly from the president, quote, based on the fact that there is a substantial chance of negotiations that may or may not take place with Iran in the near future, I will make my decision whether or not to go within the next 2 weeks.
On that front, do you have an understanding of why there's now a 2-week window for diplomacy? Because at the same time, the White House said yesterday they understand it might be a couple of weeks before the Iranians achieve a nuclear weapon.
No, but he has his reasons, and he's the one who knows, and that is the specificity of his statement. And I'll leave it at that. All right?
Thank you.
Yes, sir, at the end here.
So on Ukraine, you said that...
Can you tell me your name and your outlet?
Oskar Górzyński, Polish press agency.
Go ahead.
So, you said that you're not going to react to a single quote from Russian officials, but over the past few weeks, Russia has made it pretty clear that they're not interested in real negotiations. They killed the U.S. citizen.
Mm-hmm.
They struck the Boeing office in Kiev, and the president has repeatedly threatened sanctions on Russia if that happens. So why no action yet? I mean, how does that show peace through strength?
Well, this is one of the reasons why we don't have negotiations in the press, debates between people reading things on the news, quotes in newspapers or made in a moment or on a website, that there are much more complex things that are happening. Other conversations, the culmination of multiple other negotiations with Iran is an example in one case, summits and negotiations with Russia and Ukraine, the parties themselves meeting. We've always said that we will not take, essentially for Russia, we're not going to listen to what they say, we're going to watch what they do. That remains true. But what you would do in this moment is not at issue. What matters are the people who've been involved for months now, dealing with the parties directly, the leaders of countries in the world, but the most powerful leader in the world right now, Donald Trump, who would likely know a little bit more about the nature of the situation than you or I. And I think you might have to agree that he may know more. So I think it's important to not second guess the president, and to not speculate, and to not presume that what he's doing is not in the process of peace, but in fact specifically in that track.
So
and I'm wondering for Matt Lee, who's been studious with his phone, if you do have something you'd like to ask or add.
I actually do.
I'm surprised.
My question is about
Matt Lee of the Associated Press, for those of you who don't know him.
25,000.
The two people in the world. Yes, sir, go ahead.
Of the 25,000, you said that you couldn't break it down.
That's correct.
How many were Israel, how many were West Bank, and how many were Iran.
That's right.
But is it correct that the only evacuation flight that has happened so far was the one for embassy staff and family members on Wednesday?
I will not characterize that or agree with you or not. I won't give you an answer to that. Sorry. It's one of those things we can't hear. In the days prior to this conflict, I might go back and forth with you, but I can't answer that.
Okay, well, because there was a comment from the embassy spokesperson about actually. So, are you aware of when these people call? I assume they're calling the number that.
Yes, they are. I've called that number. I don't know if many of you have. You called that number? You can call that number, and you'll get someone from.
You don't go on to permanent hold.
No, they're busier now. After the briefing Tuesday, they're busier.
So,
but be persistent and do the form online. That's always a good idea.
So the 25,000 people who have reached out,
Yes.
have reached out via that platform, either online or calling.
Correct.
And they, do you know how many of those 25,000 have then taken the information that they've been given or the guidance that they've been given, and then left?
There's data that I won't be sharing, and even
do you
in
even have
general, it's not data that I can share with you. The fact that we got the number from the team, I felt really excited about. Now you're making me feel like it's not so good.
No,
it is. It's a great
that was what
number,
I was
but
doing.
I will not break it down.
Okay.
I will not go into descriptions that highlight a situation or an environment within this region of conflict. I don't think it's wise.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, yes, sir. Back.
Thank you very much. I have two questions. Regional sources reported that Iran is using human shields to protect its military bases and forces. Same thing Hamas did in Gaza. This tactic has reportedly been employed in several areas, including Kermanshah city in Iranian Kurdistan. Do you have any information on this, and would you please be willing to comment?
What I can say, it's going to be brief. You won't necessarily like it, but I can say that we are aware of those reports, that the Iranian regime is using human shields to protect its military bases and forces, and I have nothing further for you at this time, but we are aware. Yes, sir.
Next.
Well, you have one more?
Yes, one more.
All right, and then we'll
please.
come directly to you. Yes, sir.
Danny Danon, Israel's representative to the United Nations, claimed that Iran has attempted to assassinate President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu. He said today at the United Nations. Do you want to comment on it?
No, I would suggest you contact the ambassador, but I have no comment on that. Yes, sir. All right, now, yes.
Thank you, Tammy. To question one on Iran and the other one on Iraq. I'm sure you may have heard from the Iranian foreign minister, which he said that we are not coming back to the table unless the Israeli stops strikes on Iran. And they are not going to negotiate with the U.S. until the U.S. will stop Israeli to attack Iranian. Are you willing to broker a ceasefire if that helps you to make a deal with the Iranian?
Obviously, I can't speculate on that. I'm not going to characterize what's happening now or the reaction by the president or the secretary of state to what those negotiations might be. So you know that's a standard basis here, is we're not going to do that. But as you do know, of course, from the president's remarks, is that he still holds out the hope for negotiations. And there's also been a reinforcement that Iran and its proxy should not target U.S. interests or personnel, and if they do, the consequences will be dire. So we can reinforce that. And of course, the ultimate red line, which has been repeated constantly, because it's what the president sees as being the most important aspect, is that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. That is not a negotiable dynamic.
And,
all right, yes, sir.
Another question on Iraq.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, please.
Sorry.
No, we'll keep going here.
I have a non-Middle East question.
Yes.
We're getting reports that Japan has canceled the annual security talks known as 2+2 with Secretary Rubio and Defense Secretary Hegseth because of U.S. demands for them to increase their defense spending. Do you have any comment on this? And has Tokyo communicated with
No, I have
Washington?
no comment on that at this point. Thank you. Yes, ma'am?
Thank you, Tammy. Two questions, one on China and about the Iran and Israel war. It was reported that the Chinese cargo plane was headed to Iran. Has there been any detection of Chinese actions or cooperation to support Iran? Thank you.
Let's take that back, shall we? Get back to her with an answer on that. What is your next one, please?
One more question, please. Iran's nuclear weapons are threatening the entire world if the United States intervenes in a war between Israel and Iran. Do you think it will need support or cooperation from its allies?
Well, we've made very clear, I think there's, if anything is obvious to the world, it's that President Trump has demands regarding that situation. His concern is the fact that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. We know, of course, since October 7th, Israel remains in the posture of defending itself and the existential threat that is posed in that region by Iran. Our efforts clearly reflect the president's commitment to diplomacy first, to diplomacy being the thing that he believes will and can succeed, but he's also a pragmatic man. And this is why it's probably the most transparent leader globally right now, is making it clear publicly about his positions and when he would be willing to be making decisions about that. But we are always working with our allies and our partners. It's clear, and that will be also evident when the President and Secretary of State go to The Hague for the NATO meeting next week. All right, now go ahead in the back. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much, Tammy, on Bangladesh. Given UN Human Rights Commission Chief Volker Turk concern over the banning of political parties in Bangladesh, also, Human Rights Watch has accused the UNIS-led interim government for arbitrarily targeting Awami League supporters. Does the U.S. consider this violation of democratic principle and condemn these actions?
Obviously, when it comes to let's say, a White House reaction to what is occurring in another country, I would suggest you contact the White House. But for when it comes to Secretary of State and the State Department, let's take that back. And we'll get an answer for you in that regard. But what I can tell you about Bangladesh is that Deputy Secretary Landau met with Bangladesh National Security Advisor Rahman Wednesday, and discussed the interim government's efforts ahead of the national elections. They discussed the U.S.-Bangladesh relationship, including expanding trade and commercial ties. The United States is committed to working with Bangladesh to promote peace and stability in the region.
And I have a second short question on
All right.
same. What is the State Department response to the alleged fabricated charges against Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, the rise of mob killing and violence, and the imprisonment of individuals like 100 journalists without trial under this interim government? Will you condemn this and ask them to free them?
We will take that back, and I'll get you an answer as soon as we can get one for you. Yes, sir, in the middle here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tammy. The Turkish President Erdogan hosted the Armenian Prime Minister and his delegation in Istanbul today, and he mentioned that they talked regional issues, including the stability and peace in the Caucasian region and the problems or the issues between Turkey and Armenia. How do you follow these meetings?
Well, I've not spoken to the Secretary specifically about that particular instance, but I'm sure we will be able to get to you his opinion and the nature of how he's reacting. I would also suggest the White House as well for you for more information in that regard, but if we can take that back. And with that, that is going to be it for me today. It is, again, Friday. My thanks to you for coming up on a day that is not our normal briefing day, and I appreciate it. Have a lovely day. And we will see you next week. Tuesday and Thursday where is it? Is security here or is security not here? Let's get this going because this has gotten a little old and inappropriate. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Thank you.